Hello, I'm back. I was going to do a really nice kind of presentation for today. I was going to do a nice one. But I found out through little media sources that in the Kelly Thomas case, both of the officers were acquitted. No charges against either of the officers who beat a homeless man to death in the city of Fullerton. They beat him very badly, so badly he was choking on his own blood, and they had video of it, they had audio of it. He went in the hospital, and 5 days later he died from his wounds, from the compression that they put on his chest and everything else happening with his complications of the beating that they gave him. And both officers got off scot-free. Now that reminds me of Oscar Grant in San Francisco, where the officers shot Oscar Grant right in the head in front of everybody on camera. It reminds me of Rodney King, where obviously on camera they just kept beating Rodney King just over and over and over again. It reminds me of Trayvon Martin, who was just walking home and was shot by another citizen. And that fellow got off as well. When we're talking about this, you have to realize that all of those people are minorities. Whether they're African American, whether they're homeless, they're all minorities. And then you have someone like O.J. Simpson, who had a book called If I Did It, describing in detail the murders that he committed. And he got off easily. We're talking about money. We're talking about class. We're talking about the difference between one group having enough money to fight the system and to have whatever laws go through that they want to, and to obey and disobey whichever laws they want, and another group not having the money to fight the system because the system is really about representation through money. In a police state oligarchy, anything that threatens the sparkling image of authority is not allowed. Who do you think has more money? The entire city of Fullerton? Or the parents paying out of their own pockets for the defense, or for the prosecution rather, of a homeless man? Is it any surprise that the officers got off? No. Not at all. The officers always get off. And if they don't get off, then they get slapped with a light fine. And they maybe go to prison for a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years. Maybe 5, I don't know. But prison is a dangerous place for officers, because it's full of people who have been put there by officers. Now, whenever something like this happens, people tend to want to riot. People tend to riot, or they want to riot, or they want to break things. They want to take things. They want to, they see the system as having failed them, and that those who were there to protect them haven't done it, and the system is broken, and even those who are supposed to uphold the law are not following it, so why should they follow the law? Now, I'm very empathetic towards them. I can empathize towards where they're going with that mentality. But why physically be violent? Why riot and destroy someone else's livelihood and take things for yourself over and over, and destroy the area that you're in, destroy poor areas of whatever city? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. And the only thing that I can think is that maybe we've been so conditioned by society to think that you need more stuff that that's where people turn their attention when something like this happens. They turn their attention to, I'm a have-not, I'm going to get some. I'm going to get mine now. And often it can be at the expense of, other people and violence towards innocent people. I feel that that's wrong. I feel that that's wrong, okay? And it's wrong for so many reasons. But the main reason is that if you are terrified of the Gestapo, if you're terrified of the Nazis, you don't destroy the Polish ghetto. If you're trying to keep the Gestapo from doing what they're doing, you stop the Gestapo. You fight the Gestapo. You fight the state from the top down. And I'm not saying physically fight. You're not being violent. You're just taking their authority away. You're taking it away because who has it? I mean, this is basic science, okay? What weighs more? 300 people in Congress or 300 million citizens? It's only if you are distracted all of the time that you don't notice how much others are stealing from you and destroying your life and taking your life if they feel like it. I've had police officers pull guns on me. Pull guns on me. Do you know what I was doing? Nothing. I was driving my car. I was giving a friend a ride home from high school. And I was pulled over and had 2 police officers box me in and pull a gun on me. His partner pulled a gun on me. Why? Why? Because I was driving a sports car at the time. That's why. It's the only reason why. After they took my ID and we went through all of the information and everything, they told me, next time you better pull over when we tell you to pull over. And they left. The reason they left is because they didn't have any reason to pull me over. All right? Anytime you have someone in a police state mentality, they will abuse their authority. It just takes so long. It only takes so long. You give someone a weapon and you tell them to keep pace with everyone else, to control what they're doing. It's only so long before they start hurting people for no reason. They're encouraged to do that. In police academy, they're encouraged to do that. Now, what the officers don't understand, what the police don't understand, is that their entire job is to uphold your constitutional rights. That's their entire job. Their job is to serve and protect you. Their job is not to beat you to death. Their job is not to assassinate you. And yes, if someone pulls you out of a lineup and sits you down on the ground and then starts berating you, and you're talking, just trying to defend yourself, and they pull out a gun and they shoot you in the head, they've assassinated you. I don't like that kind of back talk. Boom, assassinated. Any system that will allow that to go on is not a real system. Any system that you have to have multiple millions of dollars to be able to defend yourself is not a real system. Okay? It's a system that feeds into a mentality where everyone is a criminal, except for the authorities. Everyone's a criminal except for those in power. It's the reason why in the United States we incarcerate more people than any other country in the world per capita. We have the highest amount of incarcerated citizens, and they're building bigger, multi-billion-dollar supermax prisons more and more all the time. The prisons are overly full. I took a tour of a prison one time. I was in a play, and I took a tour of a prison, and I saw that they were so overcrowded they had to shove triple stacked bunk beds into what used to be the gymnasium for playing basketball, so that they could throw all of the inmates in there. There's not enough room in the prison, so they have to build more prisons. And why do they have to build more prisons? Because they have to make harsher and harsher laws to put people in prisons, so they have an excuse to spend all of that money. And who's supporting it? The prison guard unions. The contractors that build these multi-billion-dollar prisons. Okay? A corporation can make $30,000 to $40,000 a year off of someone that they're imprisoning. Now you'd say, but they're a drain on the system. They're a drain. What are you talking about? You have to feed them. You have to do this stuff for them. Are you serious? Someone in prison is getting, on average, an 8-cent meal. 3 8-cent meals. That's 24 cents in a day for that one person that's in prison. You know what they're doing with most of the rest of their time? Making things. They are forced slave labor in prisons. You know, we've all seen the TV shows, the cartoons or whatever with, prisoners punching license plates. They do stuff that the state is supposed to do. And oftentimes, in some prisons, they're self-sustaining prisons, so the prisoners work and make their own clothes, they grow their own food, they do a bunch of the stuff, that we're supposed to be paying for. And where does that money go? It goes to the prison guards. It goes to the contractors. It goes to all of the people from the top down that made that prison happen. Your money never goes to the lowest of the low. Your money always goes to the highest of the high. So, what I suggest is if you're as fed up with these sort of things as I am, if you're as fed up with seeing the system fail again and again and again and again and again, do something about it. Rip those people out of Congress. Don't allow them to go back. Don't allow the same politics as usual always. Don't allow harsher laws to be written. Don't allow any of it. Write to the lawmakers and make sure they revoke those harsh laws. Get rid of a system that makes you a slave all of the time. Stop distracting yourself. Okay? You are in the matrix. You're in the matrix. You're plugged in and they're shoving information in your head all of the time so that you think that you're in a nice, whatever. Oh, my biggest problem is that I got a flat tire this morning and the coffee was cold. Those aren't real problems. Real problems are things like being detained forever because you said something or did something that somebody didn't like, and there's no reason for it. They don't have to have a reason to detain you forever anymore. There's only a few countries that have that, okay? Only a few countries in the world. North Korea being one of them. But we do, in America. That was passed very recently. All right? Learn about these things so that you can change the system. The system can only be changed by mass movements of huge amounts of people understanding and learning and doing something about what's happening in the world. Doing something about what's happening to them. That's the only way the system can change. The system cannot change relying on the people who are already your slave masters, who are already taking things away from you, who are already making your life horrible. The system can't change like that. The system can only change when you make it change. And the only way to make it change is to make your voice heard and to spread information and to be good, to be honorable, and to just go for it. Okay? To not be scared. Because fear is the reason these things happen. Fear on the part of the officers who don't know what to do. They see criminals as scum and they see everyone as a criminal. Fear on the part of those who are being abused and being beat down and being destroyed by the system. The only people who don't fear are the people at the top, because they are untouchable. And they're only untouchable because you don't touch them. If your president is doing something bad, write to have him impeached. Write all your representatives. Okay? If your representatives aren't doing anything, if they're making things harder and harder for you and harsher for you, and they're taking more and more of your rights away, get rid of them. Kick them out. Impeach them. Okay? Impeach them. Or vote for somebody else. Vote for somebody who doesn't have skin in the game with all of the politics that we already know. Right to get legislation passed, as new amendments that corporations are not allowed to contribute anything to government-run things, that they're not allowed to have their voice heard. Their business is to make money for their shareholders. That's their only caveat. And yet they're protected the same as a human being. If I was beat to death by police officers, my family and the people around me would have to pay money out of their own pockets to pay for my lawyer fees. But if some big corporation is poisoning you slowly, which many of them are, what are you going to do? Take a class action lawsuit against them? They're going to beat you. They have more money. They might just put it into arbitration and then just keep it going for years until you run out of money. Until the prosecution, the people who are being affected by this nonsense and this horribleness run out of money. Because you don't have limitless pockets. You don't have multiple billions of dollars. You don't even have trillions of dollars like some of these corporations, these major, super huge companies. But they do. They can wait you out. It's a war of attrition. They can cut off your supply lines and cut off your food and sit outside of your walls and wait for you to starve to death. And the only reason they can do that is because we allow it. We allow that to happen. So, it's so hard to put into words everything that's happening with these situations. It's hard to really make it concise and not be angry about it and not be so emotional about it. But how can you not be? How can you not have passionate feelings about making your life better and making the world better? Now, Kelly Thomas, he was homeless, which means he wasn't part of that system. He was outside of it. He wasn't part of the system that said, these laws are going to make you a criminal because. He wasn't part of electing, a Congress member who screwed him over. He wasn't part of that. He was outside of it. And there's two ways to be free. One, to reject the system and not be a part of it, like Kelly Thomas. Or to get into the system and change it from the inside out. To make it fashionable to change. To make it cool to change. To change minds and thoughts and feelings from the inside out. Those are the only two ways to be free. Kelly Thomas, at least he died free.